The night Pam punched her husband Mark in the face, the whole block heard about it before midnight. But what nobody knew was how it all started. It started with a dusty bag in the back of a closet. Pam had always been the responsible one. The one with the steady office job, the organized life, the nice apartment. She worked long hours, and sometimes she stayed late at the office finishing projects while everybody else went home. Her younger sister, Stacy, was the opposite. Fun, loud, always moving from one situation to the next. So when Stacy told Pam she needed somewhere to stay for a while, Pam didn't hesitate. "Stay here till you get back on your feet," she told her. At first, everything was normal. Mark and Stacy would talk in the kitchen sometimes while Pam worked late. Sometimes they'd sit on the balcony talking about the old neighborhood they all grew up in. Music, block parties, old friends, just memories. It seemed innocent. At least that's what Pam believed. A year and some months passed, and Stacy was still living there with a new baby. Then one week, Pam's office announced they were having a goofy little work event called Wacky Tacky Day. Everybody had to dress ridiculous. Pam remembered she had some old boots somewhere in the back of her closet that would be perfect. So that night, she started digging through the closet. Boxes, old coats, bags she hadn't touched in years. While moving things around, she knocked over a small tote bag stuffed behind a pile of shoes. Papers slid out onto the floor. Pam bent down to pick them up. They weren't bills. They were folded letters. And the name written on the top made her heart stop. Mark. Her husband's name. She opened the first letter slowly. The handwriting was Stacy's. The letter talked about late nights in the apartment while Pam was still at work, laughing about almost getting caught one night in the kitchen. Pam's stomach twisted. She opened another one. This one talked about promises and secrets. Then she opened the third letter, and that's when her hands started shaking. Because in that letter, Stacy wrote, "Don't worry about the baby. Nobody will ever know it's yours. Just keep helping me on the side like you promised." Pam sat there on the floor staring at that sentence. Her sister, her husband, and a baby that was never supposed to be revealed. That evening, Pam walked into the living room holding the letter. Stacy was sitting on the couch holding the baby. Pam dropped the paper on the table. "I found this," she said. Stacy's face turned white. "What letter?" she tried to say. But Pam had already started yelling. The argument got so loud the neighbors started opening their doors. Finally, Pam pointed at the front door and shouted, "Get out! Take your baby and get out of my house, and don't you ever speak to me again." Stacy grabbed the baby and left crying. An hour later, Mark walked through the door like it was a normal night. That was his mistake. Before he could even say a word, Pam swung and punched him straight in the face. Then she pointed at the door. "I already put my sister and your baby out," she said. "You can follow right behind them." Just like that, 12 years of marriage ended in one night. Everyone thought the drama was finally over. But it wasn't. Because Stacy kept calling Mark. Over and over again. Text messages, missed calls, voicemails. Until finally Mark agreed to meet her. The moment they saw each other, the argument started. Mark looked furious. "I told you to get rid of those letters," he snapped. "Why would you even write that stuff down?" Stacy folded her arms. "Because I wanted to document our love story." Mark laughed, but there was nothing funny about it. "A love story?" he said. "That was never a love story. I was just hitting that. That's all it was." The words hit Stacy like a slap. They started yelling at each other in the parking lot. Then suddenly, Stacy shoved the baby into Mark's arms. "Well, guess what?" she said coldly. "You're gonna have to take care of her." Mark looked down at the baby in shock. "What the hell are you talking about?" Stacy shrugged. You got a good job, you got a family. Me and Pam lost our parents years ago. We don't have anybody." Mark shook his head. "I can't do this," he said. "This is too much. And how do I even know that baby is mine?" Stacy's face twisted with anger. "Oh, now it's not your baby?" She shoved him again. Then she turned and walked away, just like that, leaving Mark standing there in the parking lot, holding a baby he didn't know how to take care of. He had no idea that the next place he would go would make things even worse, so he drove straight back to Pam's house. When Pam opened the door and saw Mark standing there with a baby in his arms, her face went cold. "What are you doing here?" she asked. Mark looked exhausted. "Pam, listen. Stacy left. She just walked off and left me with the baby." Pam stared at him. "And?" "I don't know how to take care of a baby," Mark said. "I don't even have anywhere to stay tonight. I just need help. Just for tonight." Pam looked down at the baby, then back at Mark. "Are you serious right now?" she said. "You really got the nerve to come here asking me to help you with the baby you made with my sister?" "Pam, come on," Mark said quietly. "She's still your niece. She's your blood." Pam shook her head slowly. "You really lost your mind." Mark stepped closer. "Pam, I still love you. I swear I never meant for any of this to happen." Her face hardened. "You should have thought about that before you started messing with my sister." The words hung in the air. "Please," Mark said, "just for tonight." Pam opened the door a little wider. For a second, it looked like she might let him in, but instead she pointed toward the street. "You need to go find yourself a hotel, because you and that baby are not staying here." Mark stood there hoping she would change her mind. She didn't. Pam slammed the door in his face, and in that moment Mark realized he was completely on his own. So he drove an hour to his mother's house. On the way, he had to stop at a store to buy baby formula, diapers, and a few things he didn't even know babies needed. By the time he finally reached his mother's house, he looked worn out. When she opened the door and saw him standing there holding a baby, she froze. "Mark, what is going on?" He sighed. "It's a long story." Weeks passed. His mother helped him take care of the baby while he tried to figure out what to do. Then one night she asked him something that made his stomach drop. "Did you ever get a blood test?" Mark froze, because the truth was, he didn't actually know if the baby was his. They decided to get the test. When the results finally came back, Mark stared at the paper in disbelief. The baby wasn't his, not even close. So Mark tried calling Stacy, but her phone was gone. When he finally tracked her down and told her the baby wasn't his, she didn't even hesitate. "Well, that sounds like your problem now," she said coldly. "I don't want that baby. Do whatever you want with it." Then she hung up. Mark sat there in silence. There was only one person left he could call, Pam. When she finally answered the phone, Mark sounded tired. "Thank you for picking up," he said. "I've been trying to reach you for days." Pam didn't sound impressed. "What do you want, Mark?" He took a deep breath. "I got the blood test results. The baby isn't mine." There was a long pause. "That baby is your sister's child," Mark continued. "Your blood, and Stacy wants nothing to do with her." Pam was quiet. "I'm not raising a child that isn't mine," Mark said. "But before I take her to social services, I needed to ask you something." Another pause. "Do you want your niece?" Pam exhaled slowly. "That selfish girl," she muttered, always leaving her mess for someone else to clean up. Then she said firmly, "Bring my niece to me, because I'm not letting my blood end up in the system." Later that day, Mark drove the baby to Pam's house. His mother stood by the door holding back tears. "I'm gonna miss that little girl," she said softly. "Do you think Pam will let me see her sometimes?" Mark shook his head. "I don't know," he said. "She has every reason to hate me." When Pam opened the door, Mark carefully placed the baby into her arms. Pam held the child gently. Then Mark spoke quietly. "My mom really grew attached to her. Maybe she could visit sometimes." Pam looked at him. Then she looked at the baby. Then back at Mark. "You really don't get it, do you?" She stepped back toward the door. "You won't be seeing her again. Neither will your mother. Thanks for taking care of her. But from this point on, she's mine." Mark stood there stunned. Pam slowly closed the door. And just like that, Mark lost everything.